Welcome commissioners, applicants, and interested parties to the October 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. The meeting is now open. My name is Valerio Romano. I'm the chair of the commission and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 260 of the Cohasset Bylaws governing wetlands protection, and Chapter 263 of Cohasset's bylaws governing stormwater management. The Conservation Commission meeting is now in session and is being held on Zoom. If you have any questions for the commission or comments, please put them in the Q&A section of the Zoom application. Please include your name and address to be recognized. When called, do your best to limit your discussion to 3 minutes, please. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and our Conservation Agent, Charlotte Pechtel. I will now take a roll call of the commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, present.
Steve Magnell.
Steve Magnell, present.
I expect that Sanji Fernando will also be joining shortly, and Valerio Romano, chair, present. Right now we have a quorum of 5 commissioners, and I believe we'll have a 6th shortly. Before we get into the public meetings, I think we have some minutes to approve. Do I have a motion on the minutes from June 25th?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Anybody have anything they want to bring up? Okay, we'll just do a vote. A vote. All those in favor of approving the June 25th minutes?
You need a second.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
Berrigan, second.
Thanks, Tom. I thought I heard. Yep. Sorry. First and seconded. All those in favor of approving the June 25th minutes?
Aye.
Signify so by saying aye.
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 And then do we have a motion for the June 27th minutes?
So moved.
We had 2 same week meetings. Any seconds?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So I believe both those motions carry unanimously. Thank you. So on to our first public hearing. Our first public hearing is a request for a determination of applicability 24-15 to determine whether Andrew and Kristen Astley's proposed repairs to the foundation of their garage and addition of a porch at 45 Joy Place are subject to the Wetlands Protection Act or Cohasset's Wetlands Bylaw. Andrew or Kristen, will you be making a presentation, or Charlotte, is there anyone in attendance that we should promote?
Hi, I'm Andrew Astley here for representing the property. And Andrew, I don't see anybody else, but let me know if anyone else is expected to join.
Nope, just me.
Okay.
Go ahead, Charlotte. You let me know.
Go ahead. I was going to say I can share screen, or you can share screen, or but yeah, why don't
I'll share screen.
Perfect.
I'll share screen.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me in front of the commission. My name is Andrew Astley. I'm at 45 Joy Place, owner of the property at 45 Joy Place. It's currently under construction with an approved plan. What we're asking for today, and I'll share my screen to show you the details, is some work at the very edge of the 50-foot perimeter from the wetlands to shore up the foundation for our garage, and the addition of a small porch in the front between the 50 and 100-foot marks. So I'll share my screen to show those drawings, and I'm assuming that you guys have had a chance to read the application. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great.
So I'm so sorry, Andrew. It looks like we do have our 6th commissioner. Sanji, okay. Can you just say your name and present? Oh, you're muted.
Sanji Fernando, present.
Okay,
welcome,
perfect. So we have 6 now.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm just going to continue here on the screen. I'm recognizing time. This is a picture of the property. I'm sorry, it's vertical instead of horizontal. I don't know how to change that. But you'll see that at the top of the page is the garage, and what you'll see in the depiction at the lower part of the garage, and I can circle it here.
On the Andrew, on the bottom right, there's a little arrow that's that turns. If you press that a couple times, you'll be able to
Okay,
flip
great.
it around.
There. All right.
There
Thank
you
you very
go.
much. Appreciate
Yeah, of
that.
course.
Thank you. So this is the front of the house facing Joy Place, and this is the garage we're talking about. I can show you in a moment where it is in relationship to the 50 feet and 100 feet. But this is the garage, and the foundation is currently not substantial enough to complete the project in the garage. So what we're going to use are helical. They're called helical piers that get driven into the ground, screwed into the ground, and are then bolted into the existing foundation. So you can see this one here, these two, and this one. And then if I continue down and show the next page, excuse me, let me go back up. I can show another version of that. See if I can run zoom here. This is from behind. You can see the helical piers that go underneath the foundation, similar way right here. And this is the diagram of the property. We currently have an existing 4-inch mulch tube that goes around the whole property that's protecting the wetlands that are in this area here. So that's the premise for the garage. I'd be happy to take any questions around the garage. And then I could point out where the porch is in relationship to the rest of the project. So let me go back up, and this is the porch.
Why don't you go ahead and explain the porch too, and then maybe we can just do questions on both if that's
Yeah,
all right.
sure. So the porch is simply right here on this diagram. It's in front. It's really aesthetic in order to give us a little bit of a walkway into the house instead of just being right to the elements right as you walk into the house. So it will require 1, 2, 3, 4 sonotubes that are not within the 50 feet. They're within the 100 feet, but not within the 50 feet. And so again, it's shown in this drawing right here in the front of the project. So that's what I have prepared. As I mentioned, I think one of the critical parts for this committee or commission, excuse me, is that we have done some mitigation relative to erosion with 4-inch and it's mulch filled sock that goes around the property. So all work will be done within that. The work itself is done immediately adjacent to the property. So it's really not additional. It's not poking out from the property. It's within the framework of the property and will be covered up with dirt after the piers are driven into the ground.
Great. So I mean, I have it open on mine, but for the sake of anybody else that may be interested, Andrew, can I get you to go down back to near that arrow, the circular arrow, and press that plus sign a few times so that we can all be look. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple more times, and then
Okay.
scroll down a little bit. Thank you. So you already have the mulch. Well, let's start with the various members of the commission. Commissioner Bell, do you have any questions at this time? Sorry, you're muted, Tom.
No, I don't.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Yes, I was reading a little bit about the helical piers because I was not familiar with them. And I read that they're made with galvanized steel so that the effect on the environment is not as harsh because they doesn't off gas. My question is, are your helical piers have the galvanized steel posts that go in the ground?
Yeah, they're made out of galvanized steel.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's in lieu of having to dig a big hole and pour cement into it, we're using, in essence, a gigantic screw that's galvanized.
Okay.
Kind of clever.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Commissioner Magnell? Sorry, Steve, you're muted also. There you go.
Sorry, I've been muting because I have a cough and I don't want to cough all over you folks. I'm assuming that the galvanized piers are just attached to the existing concrete slab?
That's exactly right. They're bolted through the existing concrete slab.
So nothing
in
is
essence-
changing except for that.
Excuse me?
Then nothing is changing except for that.
That's correct.
Okay. That's the only question I had.
Commissioner McIntyre?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Fernando?
Oh, with regard to the helical piers, which I think is a very good way to do this, are you concerned about how far or how deep you need to go in that kind of soil condition and bed?
No, I mean, we've had an engineer look at the project and they aren't concerned with the ability to use those piers. They recommended them. So no.
So
Great. Is it, yeah. Go ahead,
ordinarily,
Tom.
when you're evaluating peers, you would do something, you'd actually need a test to determine its ability to support the load that you proposed. It's called an SPT test, where basically they do an auger, they auger down, and they auger down or they drive a bit down by hammering it, and they count the number of blows per foot to give you some idea of how resistant the soil is. Has this been done?
I don't know specifically. I know the engineer was there and tested the properties of the area.
Well, you would have known there's a fairly substantial piece of machinery that's required to do this. I mean, is this?
I don't know whether I don't know whether I would have known or not. I'm not at the property every day. But I don't know the answer to that, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, this is outside of our jurisdiction to some extent. I mean, this is really a structural engineering issue or a geoengineering issue. But I only bring it up for your sake, I suppose. If they're just guessing, they should be telling you they're guessing.
Thank you. I'll take that into consideration. I appreciate that.
Great. So I had a couple of questions. So you have the erosion control sock barrier already down. Is there work already going on?
Yeah, the house is permitted currently.
Okay. And so this work, but the work that's going on is pursued. Did you have to come before the commission also? Is there no?
We did not. It was I mean, it was you had the ability to review that building permit process. But we worked with, I don't know how the process worked, but we put down the SOC as a preemptive measure so that we wouldn't impact the wetlands.
And
But so the
Mr. Chair,
current
just to
work, yeah, go ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, just to clarify. So they're working within the existing footprint of the house, so mostly
Right.
like demo and reno work. So I did get the notification for the building permit, talked about it with the building inspector, and because they're not going past the existing footprint and they weren't tearing the whole house down, since they're working within the existing footprint, we figured that was mostly outside of the commission's jurisdiction. However, the foundation work to the ground and the buffer zone for the garage, we figured would need at least an RDA, just given some of the, temporary potential considerations there. But the silt sock was put in before they started work on the house from the inside.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And then as far as the porch that you're putting in, that increases impervious surface, or how is that? Like, what is the porch is within the 100, but not within the 50? Is there any part of the existing structure there? Is there anything poured? Do you have any more detail on what's going on with the porch?
Yeah, let's see if I have any more detail. I do. I can share a different screen. Just one second. Okay. Are you able to see that screen?
Yeah, that's Word. So I think you can press Control plus a few times probably.
Yeah, it gets very blurry when we get too much.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's what it is. So it's this area here. There is an existing entry kind of walk
Vestibule.
steps that
Okay.
are right there. And it's increasing the impervious space, but it's increasing it by less than Charlotte, can you help me what the numbers are that are the numbers that are required to have it less
I know
than
it's
the
nowhere
stormwater?
near to trigger the stormwater permit.
Right,
I
right.
get that. I was just, yeah, I just, I mean, there's just limited information about the scope of work within, within the 100. So I was just saying if, in the application, so I was saying if there was anything else that the commissioners might find interesting or worthy of discussion on what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only work within the 100 that wasn't part of the existing property and the footprint or the existing footprint that we were, where the house was prior to the project.
Okay. Hold on one sec, sorry. I see that there's also, you're looking for, are you looking for a variance also? Charlotte, there's a variance form in the folder
So
as
for
well
the,
as the RDA.
yeah, so for,
Yeah.
I think for the back corner of the garage, that work will occur in the 50. So I asked
Right here.
Andrew to submit a variance for that to drill in those helical piers partially in the 50.
I see, okay, yep.
So it would be literally this. If you look, I could pull it back to the other screen, but it kind of cuts through
Yeah,
right at that corner.
yep. I'm with it. And then last thing, for the previous permit, was that the existing permit that the front porch wasn't included on? Was that through the planning board? You need to go back to a different municipal department to have the permit amended?
No.
It wouldn't be our jurisdiction because we didn't approve the first permit.
No, it's through
Okay.
the building department.
Okay. Do any, and then I noticed finally, just in your abutter notice, that the only thing that was mentioned was the garage, the additional, the foundation work. The porch wasn't described in the abutter notice. I don't know, they have an opportunity to look at the submitted materials. I don't know if that has any effect. Charlotte, is that something that we want to worry about, particularly knowing how abutters are?
Ooh, that's a
Recently.
good catch. I think in terms of the simplicity of the project, unless Andrew, I don't know if you've spoken to any neighbors who may or may not have concerns about that.
I've spoken with every neighbor about every step of this project.
Okay.
So that's an error in my part and missing that in the letter. But I verified with all of the neighbors about this project every step before the original building and this change to the plan due to the porch and the garage.
You did talk to your neighbors specifically about the porch?
Absolutely.
addition?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, then I think
I mean, I don't
Andrew,
have-
if you've had conversations with the neighbors about the porch, I think that would be sufficient unless the commission disagrees. But I apologize for missing that in your letter.
No, I'm not sure. I just don't want to, the porch would be the only thing that may stand out for them, right? I mean, you're fixing the foundation in the garage that's hidden underground. After the work's done, you're going to replace any displaced soil, you say, and or you will. And so that's the only part that, I thought might be worth, discussing, if anything. But do any of the other commissioners have anything else to add now that we got more information about what's going on? Any other questions or comments? I don't hear anything. So, what's the will of the commission here? Are we gonna do a negative determination, let it move forward? Are we gonna ask for, a notice of intent? How do you, what's the will of the commission? Or Charlotte, what, do you have any advice for us? Or Tom, it looks like you are unmuted.
Yeah, this seems like a minor change to the plans, and it seems well documented to me, what he's shown us. So
Yeah.
I don't see, as one commissioner, I don't see a necessity for an NOI on this.
I would agree. Anybody else? So, let's see. You want to give us a little cheat sheet, Charlotte, as to, how we want to vote on this?
Yeah, if the commission's leaning towards negative, you can do -3 and -6, and -3 would be with or without conditions. So -3 would be work in the buffer zone does not require notice of intent, and then the -6 would be the same thing, but just answering for the bylaw. And then if the commission has any conditions, you can make that a part of the motion.
Trout, do you have any suggested conditions?
No, the silt sock was already installed, so I mean, I think it's common sense to maintain that throughout construction, unless you would like to put a condition in there just to be thorough. But other than that, not really. And the workers on site, should know not to go past the barrier. So if that's ever a concern, Andrew, we can talk about it. But so I think that would be if the commission wants to have conditions about that. Otherwise, I can go either way.
Andrew, I guess the one thing I would, note is, given where the work is, particularly within the 50 at the edge of the garage, are there, other than the silt, other than the sock, are there any efforts being made to make sure we're not spilling oil? I can't imagine this is all being done by hand. What?
Yep.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I don't know what the recommendation would be on that. So we have the workers there are very aware of the fact that this is in a wetlands area. But if you have recommendations on how you think about that, I'm all ears.
I mean, I certainly would. I mean, if I were to think of any condition, it would probably be something along those lines to make sure that, the work is done and, the sort of the least intrusive manner, and not to leave any, residual, chemical oils,
Oh, yeah.
gasoline, if there's any trucks that need to be, brought in, maybe to drive those, the big screws, as you call them, maybe, those are not washed off, within the buffer zone kind of thing. So I don't know if anybody has any additional thoughts along those lines, but those would be the type of conditions that I would think would be appropriate given where the work is, even though it is pretty minor.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they're using an excavator with like a driving rig
It's
on it.
it's a mini excavator is the tool that's used to drive it down.
Yeah, I think then we would just condition it to keep the excavator out of the 50, keep the
Yeah.
silt in place.
Well, it can't be out of the 50 because they're
work's going in,
actually drilling within the 50,
Right.
but it's just on that back corner.
Are they going to drill this from the slab? You said that you.
They're going to drill it immediately outside of the slab, like
Okay.
within inches of the slab, and then they bolt it through from the outside.
So the framing's already done on the slab by the looks of things. It was just passed there the other day, right?
It's the old garage is there.
Yeah.
They'll be repairing the slab, and then we'll be rebuilding part of the garage.
So they could have their machinery on the slab itself.
Not without tearing down the whole garage.
No, okay, that's what I thought. I mean, when I drove by, it looked like the garage is already more or less built.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me try to be as clear as possible. The existing garage will be rebuilt, but it's not going to be torn down. So there'll be
Right.
I don't know how to explain it more. It's like the walls won't come down completely. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. But it's they have to make sure that the supporting walls are strong enough to support a second floor. And so they're doing work in the garage. I just don't think they're tearing the walls down. I don't think there's accessibility from the inside to the outside is what I'm saying.
Well, you mentioned that they were going to drill a hole through the slab to attach these
From the side.
these screws to.
Yep. So it goes from the side down, and then it goes horizontally into the slab.
I see. Okay.
It's like
getting
think about it
bolted
as a
on.
gigantic needle, like
Yeah.
a needle that goes. The top has a hole in it, and we drill. Then they drill horizontally into the slab and put a gigantic bolt through that hole.
I see.
It's the top of a needle,
But
kind of thing.
they do have to have their drilling equipment out off the slab to the side.
That's correct. That's correct. So they do it to the side. It will be within the 4-inch mulch tube area. And we'll do everything we can to be as limited as possible within that tiny part of it, which is 50 feet, which is only the back left corner.
So I guess I misunderstood this at the beginning, and so I do have an additional question or two about the drilling. Are they going to drill this dry, or are they going to use some kind of drilling fluid, water?
They're gonna drill it dry.
Dry.
Yep.
So the only thing coming out of that hole will be soil, right?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any issues then.
Thank you.
Would the commission be open to a condition that just says that the excavator basically the excavator has to stay within the limits of the silt sock and it can't be stored in the 50. So, if they don't do this in like a day or two, obviously the excavator needs to stay out of the 50-foot buffer. And just, we understand it has to be in there for the purposes of the work. But I think there's definitely enough room for the excavator to get in without going past the silt sock. So there shouldn't be any reason for them to go on the other side of that barrier.
That's true.
Like a reasonable-
Remind me if sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I think that's a reasonable condition that we can add.
And then is it in our standard or somewhere else, but maybe the excavator needs to be well maintained so that it doesn't leak any oil or gas or anything while it's doing the work? I mean, that seems pretty obvious, but there's no point in not calling it out.
Yeah, I think you can
Okay.
you can definitely do that. Especially
that
so we
in.
don't want leaks in the buffer. So
Exactly. That's what it's about.
So that means
All right.
any
Yeah.
maintenance or fueling would take place outside the 50-foot buffer,
Right.
particularly fueling.
Yep. Okay, with that, do we have a motion to issue potentially a -3 and a -6 with the conditions that we discussed? Anybody want to make that
Sure.
motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to issue a -3 and a -6 determination, with the condition that the silt sock be left in place for the duration of the work, and that the machinery not be fueled within the buffer zone. And that the machinery be utilized inside the delineation of the silt tube with the mulch sock.
Second.
That works for me. Second, Tom, did I hear you? I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Commissioner Bell, did I hear you say second? I'm sorry.
Yes, I did. I'll second that.
Okay, great. Let's do any further discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Fernando,
Sanji Fernando, aye.
Commissioner Magnell. Sorry, Steve, you're muted.
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. Thank you for coming before us.
Thank you very much
Good
for your
luck with the
time.
project.
Mr. Chair, we need a variance too.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, that's right. We, a motion on the variance for work within the 50.
I make a motion to issue a variance for the work described. The work within the 50.
And let's include the same conditions on the variance if necessary. You know, just, any second?
Berrigan, second.
Again, we'll run through quickly. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Fernando,
Sanji Fernando, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
and Commissioner McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, aye.
And Valerio Romano, aye. Okay, I think that's it. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Andrew. I'll work on that permit tomorrow to hopefully give to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. See ya.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next public hearing is for amended NOI. Sorry, Charlotte, did you say something?
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm looking for the engineer in the audience. I'm gonna try to call him real quick.
Okay. While Charlotte's getting the engineer on, I will read the notice. If we have to, we can, skip around, but prefer to have the next public hearing for amended NOI 2130 and request to amend the existing order of conditions at 37 Parker Ave to modify the existing drainage and swell and to extend the order of conditions for 3 years. This hearing was last continued from September 19th, 2024. At a previous hearing, I believe the commission had voted to include a third-party engineer to comment on the plans and the proposal. I understand there's a request for us to reevaluate or reconsider that recommendation and that vote. And so, Charlotte, you're looking for the engineer or Mr. Trendowitz to speak. I'll pass it to you to tell us who you found.
Yeah, I can't get a hold of the engineer. I can try calling his other engineer that was present at the last meeting. But I guess we do have the other applicants in the audience for the following hearings. So I don't know if we want to just.
Why don't we pass this? Yeah, let's just pass this for later on the agenda. It's
Okay.
a short agenda, so hopefully they come in. So we'll just pass this matter to later on. Now let's go to the hearing continued from September 19, 2024 for NOI 24-24 and Stormwater Permit 24-23, where DL Realty Trust seeks to construct a driveway at 31 Dolan Lane. I believe at the previous hearing, the commission had requested some further information. And so Charlotte, I don't know who's here and could be promoted. Thank you.
So we have Jeff here, and hey Jeff, can you just state your name and affiliation for the record as usual?
Yep, thanks, Charlotte. Hi.
Oh, and your sound cut out for a little bit, Jeff.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep, your video just disappeared. Oh, now it's
Yeah,
back.
there you go.
Okay. Jeff Bassett, Morse Engineering.
Jeff. All right. So, Jeff, after the last hearing, I know we had some comments and you were to come back with some additional information. The floor is yours.
Okay. All right, I seem to be having a video issue. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. If you want to leave your video off, if there's something to share, maybe Charlotte could put it up.
Yeah, I think I can share. So yeah, why don't I bring
Okay.
Okay, so this property, 31 Dolan Lane, is a single-family home project that was permitted last year. And when it came in front of you before, the driveway was over an easement over the neighbor's property. It came through right here. And so it was a more direct shot. The neighbor was on board at the time they signed the application. It's one of the owners. But they have not been able to come to agreement and get that easement formalized. So this new filing is to utilize the actual property, which this is their frontage up here, and this is all their land. There are no easements involved. And we presented this 2 weeks ago, and the only comments were that to locate the trees in this access area here, we had previously located all the trees within the limit of work elsewhere, but we had to fill in that area. So those have been field located, they're shown right here. And then secondly, there are 5 trees within the buffer zone that are going to be removed. And it was asked if we could provide 10 trees as mitigation, so a 2-to-1 ratio, putting them in the buffer zone. So we now have 10 trees just inside the limit of work. There will be 2.5 to 3 inch calipers selected from your approved plant list. So with that, we've addressed all the comments from the last meeting, and I'll pass it back to you.
Great. Charlotte, if you're speaking, you're muted. Okay, I think you're probably on the phone. Commissioner Bell, do you have any thoughts, comments, questions?
I guess my only question is, what species of trees are you putting in?
We're keeping it just from your list of principal native plants, trees and plants. So from your approved list.
Yeah, so you're on the edge of a wetland, so it would seem that you should be selecting not just from the our list, but trees that specifically are going to thrive. At least 1, 2, 3, at least 3 of them, if not 4 of them, are really right on the edge of the wetland, and so it's really important that you select the right species for those sites. The others maybe are less impacted, but maybe not. So I don't think it should be just from the list. I think you need to call out the tree species so that we're assured that they are going to be appropriate for wet conditions.
Sure, agreed. Yeah, we can certainly give you the types of trees. Is that something that could be done before they're installed and reviewed by Charlotte?
Yeah. I don't think you need to do it tonight. Just to make sure that you call them out before you buy them and put them in, just so that Charlotte can judge whether or not they are appropriate.
Sure.
Sure, I can add a condition for that. My first thought was maybe swamp white oak, because those are trees that are normally found near wetlands and wet areas, but happy to obviously discuss that later.
Yeah, I'll start with that. I'll do a little research on those, and yeah, we can give you some information before those go in. Definitely understand they're in the upland area, but in a high groundwater area, so we want something that's going to survive.
Commissioner Berrigan?
No comment. Sounds good.
Commissioner Fernando? I'm not sure. Sanji, were you here for the last ones on this? I'm not sure if you were.
I don't think I was, but I did review I think the meeting
Oh,
minutes.
okay. Yeah, you got Moland? Yeah, of course, please.
But no comments.
Commissioner Magnell?
No, I've got no comments. It looked pretty good as far as it is.
Commissioner McIntyre?
No. I don't think.
So I just had a quick question, and it's not necessarily something that would affect coming back. Do you know the caliper? This has just been something that's sort of been going around the commission administratively. Do you know the caliper of the trees that are coming out? I'm not. If you don't, that's fine too. It's just something that I think we might start considering more, and just since we're here, just to chat about it for a minute. Whether they're if we're taking out large trees and putting in teeny, saplings, I'm not sure it would hold you up right now, but it'd be nice to know.
Yeah, well, we've got 4 of them are 12-inch caliper, and then 120. So
okay.
That's why we do the 2-to-1 ratio, because we can't plant a 12-inch tree.
Yep.
So the trees, we usually specify, Chairman Romano, I think 3, is it typically 3-inch minimum, 3-inch, Charlotte?
usually do anywhere from 2 to 3. I think, Jeff, did you put that note on there?
Yeah,
That's for
well-
deciduous though. We do 2.5 to 3 inch caliper for deciduous and then 6 to 8 feet in height for coniferous.
The other trees on this property were previously permitted to be 2.5 to 3 inch caliber.
Okay.
I didn't specifically call that out here, but that's what I was envisioning. If you want to, make that a condition that
Yeah,
they
that
would also
works.
be 2.5 to 3.
Okay, Charlotte, did you have any additional conditions that we should be considering?
Yes, and I'm just typing that last note to make sure the trees are anywhere from, do you want to do 2.5 to 3 or 2 to 3? For the buffer zone trees?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, I can take over screen sharing. You guys are ready to see those. 1 second. So just for context, since this, the wetlands were flagged a little while ago, I do have some conditions to just make sure we know where that line is, since the driveway work's going to be pretty close to the limit of the IVW. And then, as the commission knows, there's already an existing permit that's out there. So if this project were to move forward, we would just want to see the previous one closed out. You can do that with a COC and say that the permit is invalid. So we would just need to see that with a COC and recorded before any work can move forward under this new permit, if this new permit were to be utilized. So I have a condition for that. And then isolated IVW and 25-foot buffer near the proposed limit of work shall be reflagged or staked as appropriate by the wetland scientist, just because it's been a little while since we've been out there and probably want to get that reflagged before the work starts. And then all trees proposed to be removed in the buffer shall be marked accordingly, identified in the field prior to removal. Oh, and by the way, I had this all categorized prior to site work, just so that we can take care of these items all at once. And then trees proposed to be removed and remain within the limit of work shall be marked with a green ribbon or similar material inspected by agent prior to tree removal. We've done this for some projects on Howe Road, so figured for this property, at least near the buffer zone would be appropriate. And then any trees to be protected within the limit of work shall be installed, with tree protection barriers at least 5 feet from the drip line, prevent damage from construction vehicles. Project limit of work, including tree clearing, shall be staked and inspected by me prior to construction. We've done that for the other property and projects in the area. And then I don't know if you guys like this one. I think just because, just to be mindful of any overdig and construction with the boulder wall, I think we just want to make sure that those trees are kind of monitored throughout construction. So I had this one within 20 feet plus or minus, just to be careful of that really close area right up against the IVW. And then the erosion control barrier shall be extended along both sides of the limit of work along the proposed driveway. We can discover where that can be in the field before construction, if that's easier. And then I added this condition that the tree plantings, 2.5 to 3 inch in caliper shall be submitted to and reviewed by the agent prior to installation, so we can figure out species and stuff. And then the locations, just to make sure they're in a good spot before they're installed. And then the proposed stacked boulder wall shall be no taller than 4 feet in height and shall not be sealed. So with a stacked boulder wall, we just want to make sure that we're not seeing like a sealed stone wall going up instead. And then the boulder wall shall be performed from the upland side only. No work in the IVW is allowed. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then for site construction inspections, pre-construction, stormwater installation, prior to paving, retaining wall, and prior to landscaping. So pretty standard. Just added these conditions about the driveway and retaining wall, just given the sensitivity of where they are. But I don't know if anyone has any questions or if you guys want to keep this one or take it out. But I think, with the barriers going up, with everything being reflagged, I can take it or leave it.
I think it should remain. And I'm also, we're not being very specific about the degree of tree protection, perhaps. And so,
Okay.
Charlotte, I think we're pretty much in agreement that what we've seen at various other places recently with with lumber strapped to the tree trunk and all of that, kind of, we've seen some really good examples of that recently, that you should have the ability to enforce that.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, like Jeff, you probably have seen it, but 205 Atlantic Ave has a really good example. We can mimic that.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it, but if it's worked on other projects, then
Yeah, no, sorry, I don't know if you've driven by it at all in Cohasset, but it's the big one on the other side of the Cunningham Bridge. But we can,
Oh,
I can
yeah.
work with you.
Okay.
I can work with you on that. But they had
Okay.
they had to put up a lot of tree barriers for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be our new de facto standard. I think they really did a great job of protecting their tree trunks there.
Okay. So this is trees just beyond the limit of work to be protected and some sort of barrier on the trunks.
Well, any trees within the limit of work that
Okay.
are to remain.
Okay.
All trees that are going to remain within and out, well, outside the limit of work, you don't need to protect them because they're outside the limit of work. You're not going to be working there. So we're talking about trees that are inside the limit of work, so that we don't have contractors that inadvertently knock off some bark or some branches or anything like that on the trees, because we're going to lose them if we do. So we want to make sure that contractors are both aware, and for those that maybe have an accident, there's at least some protection from that heavy equipment if they are getting a little too close there.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Commissioner Bell, is the tree protection now drafted to your satisfaction? I mean, it
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
I think
Okay.
Charlotte, I think it should say that Charlotte has to approve the level and of protection and the type of protection, and give her the authority to essentially enforce what we all think should be on these trunks.
Sure. I think that makes good sense. Do any other commissioners have any amendments or additions to any of the conditions? Okay. Let's give Charlotte a second to get caught up on condition drafting if we need. Is there anything else, Charlotte? Nope. Okay, good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys want to further modify,
No.
just let me know. But I think we've
we're
covered
good.
everything.
So it sounds like there's no other concerns with the notice of intent 24-24 and stormwater permit 24-23. Do I have a motion for the two?
Yes, I move to issue an order of conditions for stormwater permits, or for NOI. Sorry, I don't have the number right in front of me.
24-24.
24-24, with the conditions that have been agreed upon that are on screen and will be entered into the minutes.
Second.
Let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. Do we have a motion on stormwater permit 24-23?
Okay, I'll move to issue a stormwater permit for SWP 24-23 with our
Any
standard
second?
conditions. I think we've already been over all of this before, so
Yeah.
we're reviewing it again tonight. So
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. Before I jump to it, Charlotte, is there anything else before we?
Yeah, one,
We
we need a variance to work.
Yeah. In the
in
50.
the, which buffers are we working in? We're working in the 25-foot buffer, the IVW. Is there any work in the, there's no work within the
I don't see the variance.
50-foot buffer anywhere. So I move to issue a variance for work within the 25-foot buffer to the IVW.
Second. Let's do another roll call vote on the, I'll second it.
Okay,
Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Fernando,
Sandra Fernando, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. Great. Thank you, Jeff, for coming back with the additional information on the trees. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Well,
Jeff, could you stay on for like a hot second for Flintlock? My only update for the commission for 34 Flintlock was we're just waiting on setting up a site visit. Have you heard from the surveyors yet?
I have not, I was gonna hang around anyways. I have a COC on at the end of the agenda.
Perfect, okay.
But, I can check in with the survey department and get back to you on that tomorrow.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and that was my update for you guys, that we're really just, we're working on just setting up a site visit to go out there with, Jeff and with the surveyor and with Brad and take a look at what's out there and figure out the plan. So we'll get out there probably in the next week or two. So.
So Valerio, you need to
Okay.
close the public hearing
Oh,
on it.
sorry.
Yep. So I'm going to close the public hearing now for NOI 24-24 and stormwater permit 24-23 is closed.
Thank you. Sorry, guys. Just didn't want to have Jeff jump off too soon.
No.
But yep. So Flintlock, if you guys have any more questions, I jumped the gun a little bit, but that's pretty much it for that one. So I'll keep you guys posted when we go out there for a site visit.
Okay, great. And that's an enforcement order, so we don't need any permission to continue or anything like that. So
Yeah. So I'll just I'll put it on 1017 again if that's okay. And I'll just keep it on at the end.
works for me. Thank you, Commissioner Bell, for keeping me. Sometimes I just sort of skip through my script. So the one that you taught me to use, so I appreciate it. Okay, let's go back to Parker Ave. Charlotte, did anybody get on board?
Unfortunately, no.
No.
I called all 3 engineers and left a message. I'm going to open my emails right now. My email slows down my Zoom, so I don't have it open. But yeah, I think we just have to table it to 1017. We still have time to issue the extension, but it's definitely cutting it kind of close. So
Do you want to check your email and maybe we'll take just a quick 5-minute break and see if you can hear from them or anything? And
yeah, there are no emails from them, unfortunately. So I mean, we can
it's only
just continue
we
it
can
to
keep moving through the
1017 if you
agenda.
like. Huh?
Yeah, sure. Since they're not on, why don't we do that? I'll make a motion to continue NOI 21-30, a request to amend the order of conditions and the request to extend the order of conditions for an additional 3 years until 10-7 or until October 17th. Is that our next date? Is that what you said?
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, did you want to just give them the extension for 3 years, but hold off on the amendment?
No, I think we should hear, don't you think we have time, you said, on the 17th for the extension as well?
Yeah, we should have time.
Yeah, so let's just hear them both then.
Okay.
I'd still like to know why, Commissioner Bell, did you have some thoughts? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to encourage the commissioners to, if they have a little bit of time between now and then, to drive out to the far end of that parking lot and take a look at this to understand the scope of what they're talking about. Because when you look at the plans, it seems more significant than when you look at it in the wild.
I walked it. I don't know. I walked it pretty close to high tide, and the swale was not filled with salt water at the time or brackish water when I walked it. So I don't know if it's just on super tides or something, you know, when it
Well,
happens. But,
yeah, it does. It gets flooded probably twice a month or something like that on king tides.
okay.
My point is that it's very small. I was quite surprised to see how small the rain garden area actually was. And so it gives you a little bit of perspective about the feasibility there, let's say.
And I mean, considering that it's open, I think it is appropriate sort of to discuss it for a minute. I guess, I mean, the issue is really, are we going to let the sort of the wild reclaim it, or are we trying to, you know, make the engineering solution that was originally proposed actually work still, right? And I don't know the answer to that.
The wild's going to it's right in the middle of a Phragmites patch, and no matter what they do, the wild is going to win, and the Phragmites is going to win there. But in fact, the Phragmites is perfectly capable of filtering any of their runoff, probably better than the rain garden will, because it's pretty dense. So it just like I say, I think commissioners have any questions about the efficacy of trying to put a rain garden that gets flooded a couple of times a month with salt water. Nothing's going to survive other than Phragmites and a few other small plants. But if the issue is for filtration of their stormwater runoff, Phragmites is, in my opinion, certainly capable of doing that. It's dense. So.
And maybe it's not worth sort of figuring out, you know, what the issues were with the engineering proposal, or you know, why we even went down this road in the first place. Let's just let it, you know, repair itself, I guess is what.
Yeah, there's
you're
also
suggesting.
there's also a good
go ahead,
chance
sorry.
that they may do just that, and they may just end up withdrawing the amendment and just trying to stabilize the site and just letting it revegetate. So there is a chance they might do that, but either way, they'll need an extension to continue to work in that sensitive area. So we'll see what they say, but I guess for now, we'll just table it to 10/17 if you guys are good with that.
And
Yeah.
I'm not insisting on. Yeah. Okay.
So
Let's
I
do
just
that.
say, you know, if any of the commissioners, if they have any concerns about this, take a close look at it. And I think you'll be better informed and more able to.
And I don't know, Tom, if you remember on the plan, there was that 12. I think the 12-inch versus, or the 12 versus the 11. I think if you look, there's a gravel lip there, so I think the 12 was probably accurate actually on the plan.
Yeah.
So I even think the plans as they were provided. One of the reasons why I thought we wanted peer review was because maybe the things had been, you know, sort of fumbled, but I don't know if they necessarily were. When you walk in, it looks like there's that lip there, which would coincide with what the plans indicated.
You know, when we first approved this plan, the stormwater issue was the flooding issue, and as it turns out, the real flooding issue are the king tides. And as I understand it, the applicant is willing to live with the king tides because they don't tend to occur during the summer when they're actually using the parking lot. So it's really kind of a non-issue, the seawater flooding. And so it's just, but we were really focused on freshwater flooding when we first approved this, and it seemed like, well, yeah, we should have a rain garden at the end of that. But that rain garden is minuscule. It's like it's a little bit bigger than a kiddie pool, you know, that you might put in your backyard. And so no wonder it filled up full of sediment, and the saltwater killed whatever they planted there. Anyway.
And then I know there was, yeah.
I just encourage you guys to take a look at it if you have any questions about how, of its scale. It really gives you a different perspective than what we saw in the plans, I think.
And Charlotte, I remember there was also some abutter correspondence on this project as well. Was any of this done to sort of protect any of the abutters' property interests, and now that's going to wind up failing if we let it just return to its original state, or is it really just to protect the actual applicant and the abutter was more concerned with, I remember the abutter was concerned with the duration of the project, but also with a little pond there that might allow, insects to fester and grow and whatnot. Is that, I guess we can hear further on the 17th, but I don't know if there's an abutter in the audience that showed up to nothing. Okay. So why don't we just, continue the matter till the 17th then? I think we all have a pretty good idea. It's a nice little walk down there anyway. So I took my dogs and, maybe check it out in the next couple of weeks. With that, do we have a motion to continue this matter till October 17th? Or I'll make that motion now.
Do we even need a motion to continue it?
No? Okay.
Yeah, we can just,
Is there-
yeah.
Sorry, Charlotte.
But I'll try to get an update on the applicant's end, but on the engineer's end as well. If they do end up withdrawing the amendment, you won't see it on the agenda, but you'll see the extension. But it's still, I think if the commission obviously visits the site and has any questions, you can definitely still talk about it because, I think the extension will definitely determine how much time they need. I don't know if they need 3 years, but that we can discuss that next time. So.
Okay. If we don't need a motion, let's just, we'll hear this, let's bring it back on the 17th.
Perfect.
Great. So we've dealt with 31 Dolan. We've also talked about Flintlock Ridge Road. I don't think we need to do anything further there. Now we're at the COCs. Jeff, which one are you here on? We can take that one first. Let Jeff go, if that's all right.
Yep. Yeah, sorry, Jeff. Just had you chilling here for a little bit since I figured we'd get to you in a couple minutes.
Okay. This meeting's going a lot quicker than I expected. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great meeting.
Yeah.
I know. This is awesome. But Jeff, just a quick update. We're just waiting a little bit on 49 Border Street. So 49 Border Street for NOI 2305 and Stormwater Permit 2304 has been continued to 10/17. They just need to finish some plantings. And then we also have the second one on the list. We have 81 Fair Oaks Lane, NOI 2303 and Stormwater Permit 2303. I think I see Josh in the audience, Jeff, so I'm just going to try to promote him. There he goes.
I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. I thought Jeff said he was waiting to discuss one of these COCs.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry,
for
both of
really
these would
both of
actually.
them.
Yeah, sorry, both of these would have been Jeff, but one of them has just been continued to 10/17. So
Oh, okay.
we're only doing 81 Fair Oaks Lane tonight.
Great. So with that, this is requesting a certificate of compliance for NOI 2303 and Stormwater Permit 2303. Are they indeed the same number? Sometimes I know I might mess that up from the agenda, but for 81 Fair Oaks Lane. Jeff?
Yeah, this was an addition
Go ahead.
project. Yep, this was an addition project to the back of the home. This is the addition here. The project was permitted in 2023. We did do an as-built survey back in July, and we found that there was a deviation, being the boulder wall going beyond the approved limit of work. But I'm sure you recall this from a couple months back. We were in front of you 2 or 3 times with a modification for that. And then that modification was approved. As mitigation, they had to plant 7 trees, which are here, and 10 shrubs in that lower area. So the mitigation has been completed. Otherwise, the project was built in the way it should, in compliance with the design plan, and the site is fully stabilized right now. So it looks good in my opinion.
Charlotte, did you have a chance to compare from the approved plans to what's actually been done in the as-built?
Yeah, so walked the site with Josh. We looked at all the plantings. In terms of the plantings, they look great in terms of being installed. And Josh also wrapped, a hose irrigation line around them, so they will be properly watered, because this area down there is extremely steep. You can't just go down. You have to walk all the way around to the bottom where that infiltration system was installed, walk around the boulder wall. So he did wrap irrigation around them to just keep those maintained. The species substitution, it was 10 inkberries that were planted instead of 10 rhododendron species from the original proposed plan back in July. So just a minor species substitution change, but the inkberry shrubs are still on our list. And there were some other changes, just minor ones that were, mostly outside the riverfront. It's just the on either sides of the home, the stairs and retaining walls just had to be slightly restructured given the steep slope on both sides and to stabilize the site. There's no increase in impervious there. And then the stockade fence was just added at the limit of the boulder wall. But other than that, the drainage, as Jeff mentioned, it's installed per plan. The boulder wall we'd already discussed. The plantings that we had required to be planted were installed per plan. There was a previous special condition 55, that the applicant had to replace one tree, originally one tree that was coming out near the northern side, where that retaining wall, that L-shaped retaining wall, on the, right near the limit of the riverfront. There was one tree coming out, and then the applicant had to replace it with 3 native species. So river birch or another similar species. So I think chose red maple. Those maples also look good, and they look like they're doing healthy. So that was a special condition originally that was complied with. And then the only thing that's pending, which I can work with Josh administratively on, is just getting that long-term stormwater operation and maintenance plan recorded with the registry. So you can probably go to the registry with the COC from the order of conditions and that, record both of those documents, and then I can issue the stormwater COC if the commission's okay with that. I've done that before to just make sure that that plan gets recorded. But other than that, no other findings on my end.
Commissioner Bell, did you have any further comments or questions?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Berrigan,
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Fernando,
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Magnell,
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Nope. All set. Thank you.
So if we are going to make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance, I assume we're going to have 40 and 41 in there as well.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Do I have such a motion from anybody? I'll make a motion to issue, hold on one moment, please. I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance and completion for, I'm just getting NOI 2303 and for stormwater permit 2303 at 81 Fair Oaks Lane. It's with the following ongoing conditions to, excuse me, no herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, or fertilizers will be allowed within a resource area or buffer zone. And of course, all plantings must survive for 3 full growing seasons. Is there anything else, Charlotte, you think we should add? Do I have a second to that motion?
Tom Bell, second.
Long-term operation and maintenance plan will be recorded for the stormwater.
Oh, yes. And then, so yes, once the certificate of completion will be taken to the registry with the long-term operation and maintenance plan. And they'll be recorded with the registry on the property. And I have a second from Commissioner Bell. Let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bell?
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Fernando?
Sandra Fernando, aye.
Commissioner Magnell?
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Chris McIntyre, aye.
And Valerio Romano, aye. And with that, I'll close the public hearing for, I can't remember these numbers, for NOI and stormwater permit 2303. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the night.
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff.
So that brings us to the end of the public agenda. To the next, great. Charlotte, do you want to give us any updates?
Yes. Yes, this is congrats on having the quickest meeting ever, other than when a meeting's canceled, we have to read the public notices. So I did have a handful of 48-hour updates, but I'll do that last just because those might have a little bit more of a discussion. So for construction updates, 32 Orchard Drive, this was a pool and patio permit partially in the 100. Walked the site earlier this week. They have all their barriers installed, and they'll start work if they haven't already this week. 92 Beach Street is another pool project that was partially in the 50. I walked the site late last week. We did find one scraggly spruce tree that's in the way of the construction vehicles, needs to come out, but it will be replaced with a native tree of at least 2.5 to 3 inches somewhere in the 100-foot buffer. So I'm okay with that change. The spruce wasn't doing too well to begin with, so it's probably going to be upset from construction with all the, land disturbance. 24 Little Harbor Road, they are going to start herbicide treatments next week. I walked the site with them and the Blue Flax team. They're, all of them have a lot of experience. They just need to get me a few things before they start. They have to give me the baseline vegetation survey with all the native, non-native, and invasive species that were out there, because they had originally just given us a tree list, so we kind of want the full list of what's out there. But we did see a lot of goldenrod, a lot of honeysuckle, bittersweet, garlic mustard, definitely lots of invasive stuff. There were a couple native walnut trees that we're going to want to keep, and we'll make sure those are marked. Most of the trees and stuff were already marked on the site to be removed or to remain. So they had a green ribbon to be, kept, and then a pink ribbon to be removed. So I'm going to go out there before and probably during the tree removal just to make sure. We're probably going to have them put a DEP sign facing the water so that neighbors on both sides of the property will know what's going on, hopefully, and people will see the sign. And, well, I'm sure they're still going to call, but at least I can say there's a sign out there. So I'll keep you guys posted on how the herbicide treatment goes. They're obviously only going to be doing the very particular methods that they specified in their management plan, so they will not be doing any spraying. It's all going to be applied specifically to the cut stems and things like that. 216 Atlantic Avenue, this was a violation instance that we were looking into where the owner, one of the owners had cut down trees around the property that were dead, and they did it without a permit. So we worked with them and Brad Holmes to do a restoration plan. Brad and I walked the site this week, and only 2 of the trees didn't make it, probably because they weren't properly watered. So 2 of the oaks died. So those will need to be replaced. And we wrote up a summary of the shrubs and the 2 trees that didn't make it through the summer because they were planted in the spring. So those will need to be replaced. But other than that, the owner did plant everything on the required restoration plan. They just have to replace some of those plantings. And then 11 Highland Court, that was a administrative stormwater permit, as was a small permit for 56 Oak Street. I didn't see any issues, didn't get any comments, but, I issued those permits, but did put in some conditions, obviously, for the standard inspections to make sure they're putting in the infiltration and keeping their barriers up, all that good stuff, in addition to our conditions template. Then for other updates, the UCF Challenge Grant update, you guys may have seen on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever you guys follow, that I had set up a 3-hour training with DCR, which was required per the grant to train our DPW staff on how to properly plant a tree. And apparently 90% of tree plantings are all done incorrectly, which comes as no surprise. So that's why they do the training, if they're going to give us money to plant trees. So 1 red maple was planted on the town common. You guys will probably see it's already changing color. It has tree gator bags attached to keep it properly watered. They're going to be planting maybe a couple more on the town common in the fall, but most of the plantings will be done in the spring. And I'm going to try to make a big deal about it around Earth Day with getting the schools involved, because all the tree plantings, majority of them were proposed at all the schools and highly visible areas on Wheelwright in that field area and on Elm Street. And then I'll get to the hazardous tree policy thing last, but I guess before I get to 48 hours.
Charlotte, can you briefly summarize how to plant a tree according to? Good.
Sure. Yes. So the first thing is a lot of people apparently leave the tree in the burlap wrap and metal cage. So you don't obviously do that. You have to cut it all away. A lot of trees in those bags, they often have roots wrapping around themselves, and they grow a lot of like really tall, fine, tiny fibrous roots. in that entire root ball, which you don't want. It affects the main root mass from establishing itself and can eventually sometimes even choke out the tree, because what happens in those burlap bags is the roots will eventually wrap around the trunk of the tree. So we actually spent quite a bit of time with him showing us all these very interesting tools. And if I get the names and lists of the tools, I will send them to you guys, because there were some tools where we're all looking at him like, what's that? And he also had a knife that looked like it was out of Crocodile Dundee, which I thought was awesome. So he showed us how to get rid of a lot of those fibrous roots to really kind of dig up what was in the burlap, container. And also digging the hole is very important. You want to actually do it anywhere from 1.5 to 2 times the width of the root mass. And you actually want to do a pretty shallow hole where the root mass is sitting above grade or at grade, where the root crown, from the bottom of the trunk and flaring out a little bit, called the root flare, is at or above grade. Because you don't want to bury it and suffocate it. And so that actually is a majority of why a lot of trees are planted incorrectly, other than people just dropping them without being unwrapped in the holes. So if you guys ever go around any town or any parking lot that recently planted trees and you guys see those mulch muffins or volcanoes, those trees are all going to suffocate and die. Unfortunately, some of them may survive for a couple years, but eventually they will get choked out. So you really want to see that root flare exposed at or above grade. And so we actually dug a pretty shallow hole. I was kind of shocked, actually. I mean, I knew it had to be not a super deep hole, but it was a pretty shallow hole given the 3-inch caliper maple tree that we planted. And then obviously, he had all these really good tips about bringing in dirt that was not too treated. Obviously, you want to work with the native material that's in the ground so the tree gets used to what it's becoming accustomed to. You definitely don't want to bring in a bunch of treated soil, and then it sometimes might only grow in that spot. And so he also mentioned, and I will get the name of the paper because I was really curious about it, but he said there's some recent data that came out that shows that most mulch that you buy in nurseries, unless it's like obviously specialized or compost or natural whatever, is apparently all garbage, and they want you to use natural wood chips because it has more of the xylem and phloem inside the tree that is more nutritious than just the bark. And so you can definitely still use some pretty good mulch that's out there. And he did give us some names, but most mulch that you see, like the dyed crap that you guys find, that you guys see in Home Depot and Lowe's, a lot of that is not really nutritious for a tree. So that's why wood chips were actually spread instead. You can sometimes use a combination. And then he also used, I'm going to get the name of it, but Tom, you might know because you're nodding your head. It was the charcoal, like the activated charcoal
biochar
stuff. Biochar, yeah. So he sprinkled a little bit of that around the root flare and spread it in between the mulch chips. Or, I'm sorry, the wood chips. So yeah, it was a 3-hour training. I think our DPW team really learned a lot. And it was funny because multiple people were coming up to us, and next thing you know, someone was posting about it on 143 before our communications guy could even get to it. So yeah, it was a very visible tree planting, and hopefully people will appreciate it.
And
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm super curious. So I just planted a tree. I should pull the mulch away from the root flare?
Yes. Yep. That's okay. Yeah, it's a great. I'll send you guys. I'll send you guys the tree guide and the papers.
Gotta cut the sack off too, Sanjay.
I definitely got the sack. I got all that, but then I didn't know that you have to leave the flare exposed. I have a little bit of mulch, but it's definitely on top of the base of the roots.
Go by Sanjay's house in an hour. He's going to be out back digging up his planted tree.
Well, that's
They're
okay,
expensive.
Sanjay. You have to
I don't wanna
maintain
kill my
your
tree.
plantings. We know that. But yeah, I'll send you guys the tree planting guide, and I need to email the arborist who did the training for us. He's also a tree warden in another town and he has lots of experience. So he was a really great source of knowledge, and I'm going to ask him for some of those papers that he referenced. And yeah, it was very informative. I think our tree guys learned a lot. Too bad our tree warden's no longer here, but we have a stand-in now.
Sounds good.
Yeah, speaking of trees, I guess I'll just jump to the hazardous tree thing. So I can send you guys stuff, and I'm happy to put this on a future agenda to talk about, but there's been a lot of calls, as you guys know, in the spring and fall about trees. I've spoken to DEP about this, even though there's obviously no clear laws other than immediate imminent hazard to road safety, which is an exempt activity. there's nothing in the Wetlands Protection Act that says you can take down hazardous trees without a permit, but DEP's kind of acknowledged the fact that a lot of towns do have a hazardous tree policy. So if we want to potentially cut down on the number of RDA submissions that we're looking at, I spoke to the agent in Norwell who has a policy that I can send you guys. And for hazardous tree stuff in buffer zones, he has asked for a certified letter from an arborist to confirm that the trees aren't an imminent hazard, and they just have to submit an administrative permit to him, and then he can allow the trees to come out once he gets that documentation and goes out to the site. So that's a process I'm happy to adopt if you guys agree, and I think we can make our own. We don't have to 100% copy somebody else's. Hingham has a whole administrative policy. If you're taking out a tree in the buffer zone or in the 100 or the 50, they have a whole equation table thing if you have to plant 2 trees, 3 trees, whatever, and they do that administratively. They do acknowledge, obviously, like theirs isn't just hazardous, theirs is like all trees. So again, I don't know what you guys are comfortable with, but I think if we wanted to cut down on the number of RDAs we're seeing with tree removal requests, I'm happy to put something in our regulations. I think you guys are all nodding your heads. So what I can do is I can send Hingham's, I'll send Norwell's, and then I still want to look at Dedham's. I haven't gotten a chance to really review Dedham's because they have one of the strictest policies with tree stuff. So I'll try to find a few other good towns and I'll put them in OneDrive, and maybe that's something we can talk about maybe next time we have another quiet meeting. But I'm happy to write it up or even copy someone's and then just modify it, and whatever you guys think. You know, if you want to do just hazardous or all trees or some trees or trees only in the 100, not the 50, like whatever you guys are thinking, happy to do it. It does. I obviously will talk to council about this, but off the record does not seem like DEP really has that much of an issue. When I was first learning, you know, they did say otherwise. They said technically you should work with people to submit an RDA, so that's what I did. But you know, they acknowledge that it's a huge burden on commissioners and agents. So even though the regs don't strictly say it, I think they've kind of accepted the fact that towns do a lot of administrative tree removal stuff, especially if they're hazardous. So,
well, if you send around a few samples, and I'll take a look at it, maybe I can try to take the first stab at sort of hacking them together a little bit and coming up with ours, and then give it to you, or the other way around, whatever, and seeing if what you think about it. It seems like there's a few issues, right? I mean, there's one, is it a hazardous tree? Then there's a conflict, obviously, which I think I heard somebody chime in on, or maybe it was just a dream, but it seems like if I'm writing an opinion that something's hazardous because I'm about to get paid to remove it, there's something of a conflict issue there. And then, you know, does the hazardous tree get left behind? Some trees, when they're left behind, you know, are an environmental hazard to the other trees and contribute to, you know, pests and whatnot. So it seems like it's a multi-step sort of thing. And then we have the further burden of where it is in the 100 and the 50, what other resource area it's in. So it's probably, you know, it's more nuanced than, oh, we got a letter from somebody saying it's hazardous, have at it. I feel like we might, you know, take a deeper dive. So if we have 2 or 3 examples of towns that have thought through this, we could probably put together something pretty good.
No, absolutely. And thank you for offering to also take a stab at that.
Sure, I like doing that
kind of thing. Get around to it. But I'll definitely send you guys either tomorrow or early next week. I will download everybody's tree policies. I'll try to target mostly South Shore, but I will definitely put Dedham's in OneDrive, and I'll send you guys a link. But I think it'd be, you know, at least with the hazardous stuff, I'm all for it, you know, just because there's so many people who've obviously been like, well, you know, if this tree falls down before I come to the commission, like, you know, I'm going to sue you guys. And it's like, okay, like, you go ahead and do what you want, but, you know, I think the hazardous thing.
We dealt with somebody like that.
We've dealt with a few of those, and I feel like, unfortunately, there's definitely there are more of them in town, so I'm uncovering more of them.
This tree has ticks, so I'm going to clear cut my entire view so I can see the water, because one of my trees has ticks.
Yeah, and something I have to be mindful of is if I talk to someone and tell them they need to submit an RDA and they never come back, I might just have to keep a little list and just check back in like a year or something and see if they ever cut down that tree. Because there's people who have been told, not even just by me, there's people who have been told by the tree warden, by the town, that you can't cut down certain trees, and they just do it anyway and they just pay the fine. It's kind of sad. And that would be my one recommendation, regardless of what you guys would like to do. I think there should be different requirements to replace the tree if you get permission administratively or through an RDA versus if you don't and we bring you in for a show cause. I think it should be, you know, make an example out of him, you know, just to make that clear, and then hopefully people eventually fall in line and go with whatever process we implement.
Yeah, maybe even a third level there. One, if you get permission, then great. Two, if you don't ask for permission and do it, then not so great. But then if you ask for permission, get denied, and do it anyway, then I think that should be sort of the, you know, the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll do whatever you guys think. Yeah, so I have to issue that RDA tomorrow, but then I think I can work on OneDrive and I'll send you guys a link. If not tomorrow, it'll be Monday, because I want to like get that to you guys so that, you know, you have time to look at it, and then I can put it on whatever agenda to maybe bring it back and talk about it. And then eventually maybe we can finalize a policy or something. I'm still behind on revising the regulations, but hopefully if it continues to be this slow, I will definitely start back up again. I was almost a little upset in myself that I didn't work on it this week, because I was like, wait, do I really have no work? Okay, because we only got one new submission for next meeting, so you guys still have a relatively light agenda for the 17th. There's a couple continued items and one just offered to continue to November. So
great.
Yeah. So knock on wood. Hopefully it stays kind of that way, and we can think about some, you know, allotting some time at the end of the agendas to look at it. So cool.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you, Charlotte.
Was that Kathy? Sorry.
I said thank you. Thank you for that.
No problem. All right. Do you guys want me to go to 48-hour issues? Yes. Okay.
Please.
I'll try to run through these quickly to keep our evening short. So 35 Nichols Road, this is the court appeal. I think since only Valerio technically got a copy, but it was still sent to town hall, town council just decided to move forward with responding to the court's summons. So this week I compiled everything in OneDrive, in Dropbox for them. They had a Dropbox that they sent me. Hopefully IT doesn't yell at me because I'm not allowed to use Dropbox, but it's fine. So they're going to be reviewing all that material. They're going to be probably setting up a meeting with me. I don't know how the proceedings go. I've never obviously done a court appeal, so I don't know if I will need to appear in court. I don't think any of you guys will need to, but I'll still keep you guys in the loop of what's going on. Chris and Valerio, if you guys want to attend any meetings with council, I'll definitely let you know. I don't know how much is town council's just going to take over, maybe once they've talked to me. So I'll let you guys know either way. And unfortunately, we're on the appeal.
Can you, whatever you shared in Dropbox, can you make a folder for us with everything that council has as well, so that, you know, at our leisure, we could take a look at it? And sure, if we want to have, you know, if you know, some status update calls with KP, I've done so much work with KP over the years. I think it would be valuable for one of us at least to, you know, have some status updates with them.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah. I mean, I definitely want to make sure that they have all the information they need and they would know how to argue this, because I think our commission went above and beyond with this project. We did ask the applicant to come up with a solution, and they did, and we're still getting taken to court. So the letter that, you know, tells the courts that our commission didn't do our due diligence and we weren't going by our own bylaw, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think we can come up with a really good argument just showing the recorded hearings saying, we literally talked about this. The applicant said they'd help fix it. They put something on the plan for a solution. We approved it. So I don't think you can say we didn't just do anything. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
The other defendant is the property owner, though, right? So they have an interest in defending it as well. So that would be one of the things I'd probably ask KP is like, who's their counsel? Who's actually running the show?
Yeah,
you know, and
that I don't know.
Yeah. So that just, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We should have like maybe some status update with KP on this issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll keep you guys posted.
Okay.
I actually don't know how it would work because the town and the applicant are both listed as the defendants. So most of their comments in the letter are addressing us as the commission, saying we didn't do our jobs, but the applicant's still listed as a defendant. So I don't know if they all need to appear in court. I would assume they do. So I don't know who takes the lead, and I don't know.
Typically, they would take the lead because we don't really have the property interest. You know, we don't want to have a problem and be found not to have done our due diligence or our job properly. But at the same time, it's not us that they're asking to, you know, amend or affect, you know, where we live in our pool and our sports court or whatever, you know. So
I don't know. Yeah, so I'll keep you guys in the loop on this one.
Great.
And I'll put everything in OneDrive so you guys can have a copy of it. And then this is kind of just a fun fact for you guys, but I just found it yesterday, so I figured it was worth sharing with you guys. So that show cause that we had closed out with 630 and 640 Jerusalem, where they're both accusing each other of altering the streams. So I found a 2016 violation from the owners of 630, just to show you guys what happened, where the shed was and what they did. And the commission at the time had them file an after the fact notice of intent to restore this area. So this area, from what you guys saw in the photos, this is what it looked like several years ago. You can vaguely see it on Near Map, but I didn't go back to 2016. So
Charlotte, one sec. I think Chris is
This is
you have something?
right?
sorry.
Chief Justice Cushing, right?
Yep, sorry, 630 CJC, yeah. So almost 10 years ago, the commission was called to the site because someone was severely altering the wetland and buffer zone. And the commission at the time had told them to submit an after the fact notice of intent with a restoration plan. That permit was never closed, and I did pull the file to look at the plan, but this area had to be revegetated. You can see that the stream, this was taken in September, so the stream was dry at the time, but you can see what the stream might have used to look like with these tiny little rocks. And now, like, there's these just large boulders that are there instead along the stream. So like where these little tiny rocks are towards the back of this photo, there's like massive rocks there now. So it's even more clear that maybe this person on 630 had been doing stuff. I don't have any proof that the person from 640 obviously did it. That's why we had to close the show cause. But I think this is just something to be mindful of. And I will say that the owner of 640 Chief Justice Cushing Highway has also been brought in for violations. So I think that's just, not that I want to go back 10 years and look every time we have a show cause hearing, but you know, I think it's helpful to kind of note that obviously what people say and what people accuse each other of, they may not be too different from, you know, the potential violators. So I just thought this was interesting, and I can share this with you if you want to read more about it. But we had them submit a notice of intent with a restoration plan to fix that area in front of the stream. It was actually partially in a wetland that was altered and disturbed. So I think that those are just some properties that we'll probably just have to keep an eye of, because both homeowners have been before the commission with previous violations. Fun. And then for a couple, speaking of other violations, someone reported to me, actually 2 people reported to me last week. I don't know if anybody's been up and down Black Horse Lane, but I can try to take a look tomorrow. 30 Black Horse Lane is this massive property that's kind of up on a hill, but it does go down to the marsh on Black Horse Lane. Supposedly there are flippers who are trying to sell the property either now or already have sold it. And they did do some landscaping where they took out trees and put on some like little gravel patio or something facing the water. I don't know what they removed. So I'll look at it on Near Map, but I'll also drive by the site. I'll probably initiate a show cause. Just wanted to keep you guys aware of it because I did get more than one call about that. And I need to speak to the building inspector because I think the building inspector went over there a couple weeks ago. And then last but not least, 46 Black Rock Road. This, Valeria, you saw the emails. I just haven't read them yet. So long story short, this is another neighbor war with a stormwater permit at 44 Black Rock Road, where the neighbor was obviously, I'm sorry, 46, excuse me. 46 is the applicant, 44 is the neighbor. We had to hire a peer review engineer to keep the peace because of the applicant's, I'm sorry, the abutters' concerns with stormwater. So they modified the driveway apparently, but it's extremely slight from what it looks like. And we had a show cause about it. We had asked the applicant and the property owner to work it out. And unfortunately that has not worked out. So now she's obviously bringing it back to Concom. So I'm going to have to go through this with our town council, because if there is a clear violation, I can reopen the show cause, but this definitely seems like it's bordering on harassment. And if there wasn't a stormwater permit even open for the site, the owner of 46 Black Rock Road would have, you know, been able to modify his driveway without a permit from us because it's a gravel driveway. So it seems like the grading did change maybe by like 6 inches or less. So there is a slight change that appears to be continuing to cause erosion onto the abutter's property. And we had asked the neighbors to work it out, and it didn't work out. So now she's bringing it back to us. And unfortunately, both sides are obviously extremely lawyered up. There's other easement stuff going on that is outside of our purview. So I guess, Valerio, we'll have to take a very close look at it, because if I'm going to initiate a show cause, I want to make sure the violation is in our jurisdiction or not. The tough part is when you have an open stormwater permit, you can argue it is because it's a change to the plans that we didn't discuss. So, you know, but again, if they never had a stormwater permit and they just did that to their driveway, I don't think we would have been able to do anything. There's nothing saying.
I mean, if you want to meet out there, we can meet out there and have the bylaw with us and then take a look and make a decision, you know, a decision amongst the two of us if you want.
Let's talk about it.
This is the one where there was like nothing properly before us or something. Isn't this that same one where we were like, you know, we were like, you guys work it out. And they're like, we need your help. And then I think all of us were like, there's nothing administrative, there's nothing procedurally here that we can deal with. You know, what do you want us to do? I think Steve, you might have been the only person not there for this was before your time, but so if that's still the case, you know, let the lawyers there fight it out. I certainly don't need that headache, you know.
Yeah.
I saw the letter where, you know, our property is never flooded, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like she's living, you know, in the Poseidon Adventure, blah, blah, you know, and it's like, so I mean, again, very wet spring, very wet winter, even wet summers the last couple of years. So, I mean, a lot of these normal site conditions are getting exacerbated and everyone's looking for a scapegoat and someone to blame rather than something, which might be the weather. I mean, you can definitely see erosion, but I don't understand why we can't just grade the driveway and have the two neighbors work together. I don't know why that didn't work out. That was the solution that we had come up with before we closed the show cause, and I don't know. So, I mean, we'll have to figure it out. I'll run it by council. I'll run it through our peer engineer. If we need to set up a site visit and have them go out there, I mean, it's going to be more cost to the applicant. So, I mean, the applicant would have to agree to have the peer review engineer come out. But Valerio, she has, the neighbor has Ring cameras all over her driveway. So I'd say let's just be cautious about that. Because, you know, I think we need to be transparent of what the commission's going to do instead of just showing up to the site. So let's, maybe we'll set up a call next week with council and we'll try to figure it out. Yeah, I mean, I'm here if you need any help with it. That's all.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, I'm happy to go to the site and look at it again. It's just, I don't know how much of it's really in our control. I mean, if it's a couple inches difference, I mean, yeah, that is a deviation to the approved plan. There was supposed to be no driveway work there. But like I said, if there was no stormwater permit for any project, he could have just done that and it would have been outside of our jurisdiction. So I don't know. It's tough.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we should make an issue for ourselves unless we have to. So. Yeah.
I'll try to set up a call with council. I'll invite you guys to it and we'll figure it out. And if we have to reopen the show cause, I will. I definitely will. I'm not saying I don't want to. It's just, it seems very tedious, very nitpicky, and almost like bordering harassment, trying to use the commission to, you know, take care of something that could be resolved between neighbors. So we've been put in that position before and it's uncomfortable, but we really just have to weed out if it's a violation or not. So, all right, but that was it for
Charlotte,
48 hours.
Could you go back to 30 Black Horse Lane? I didn't quite understand what had happened there.
Yeah, I can try to pull it up on Nearmap, but they basically, according to the reports, and I haven't verified them yet, they did cut down some trees right near the water. And on top, one of the ledge outcrops, they created some sort of like gravel sitting area. And it was advertised on the realtor, you know, I don't know what realtor website, but you could see that they created this little viewing sitting area. And the neighbors said that trees had come out. And you can see it from across the water, but you can also see it apparently going up Black Horse Lane. So I haven't been there yet, but I know the building inspector, somebody called the building inspector a couple weeks ago. I just didn't know that he did that. And if he went to the site and if he saw anything. But I can try to pull it up on Nearmap so you guys can see the property. It's a really large property. I think it's been around a while.
Yeah, it's huge.
So this is the existing house. It's obviously all along the water. They have a dock. They have a giant winding driveway that goes down to Black Horse. So I think they did something around here or around here. I'm not exactly sure, but you can see it from the street. So I guess this was taken August 12th. So I think I can use this as a base and see what they did, but I can also go back and I can look at it. I just have to be, maybe they cut down some trees. Nope. I'll have to look at it and see what they did, but they did something either here, or possibly here down to the water. Yeah. But I don't know if you guys, I'll try to take a look at it tomorrow, but it doesn't look like any changes, at least here. This is last year. I'll look into it. If it's nothing, you won't see a show cause. If there is, you'll see a show cause.
Well, yeah, okay, just, we are dealing with riverfront here.
Yep. This is riverfront. This is salt marsh. This is land subject to storm flowage. It's buffer zone. It's a lot. It's a lot of good resource areas
So
around
this
here.
property changed hands recently?
It did, and it sold more than a year ago. And the people who own it now, according to the people who called me about this, apparently these people might be flippers, and they might be trying to resell the property. It's a big house, big tennis court, pool, everything. Yeah. And I think it used to be a much bigger property until it was split off. But yeah, nice spot of land. So, yep, I'll look into it. I just got a lot of calls this week. And then Sanji, the last one was 60 Atlantic Ave. So I'll try to see if I can drive up there and take a look. But I wouldn't be surprised if that person cut down trees.
Great, yeah, that was something, a couple of the neighbors approached me while I was walking my dog.
They chased you walking your dog?
No, they approached me. We were just walking and catching up, and they're like, "Hey, you on Concom?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then they gave me the whole. It doesn't sound like he's a very nice neighbor.
Yeah, this 60 Atlantic Ave. We had originally received a stormwater permit to construct a single-family home, but the submission was withdrawn. And it was interesting because the engineer didn't even know that the applicant wanted to withdraw it. But some tree work may have happened, so I can go up and take a look. But there has been previous tree removal at that site more than 2 years ago. So I do know that whoever owns that, I think it's Ray Terranian who's been up there, he has definitely cut down trees, and I don't think he's a first-time violator with the commission. So I'll take a look.
Who did you say the owner is?
Ray Terranian. He was the one who did the giant house on the other side of the Cunningham Bridge.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, welcome back, Sanji. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
I know. I apologize.
Seriously.
Things definitely picked up a little bit once we got past Labor Day.
Welcome back.
Well, happy to, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Sanji, for helping
yeah.
with AI. Sanji and I are going to meet with IT in November to talk about some potential benefits for AI and using it to create, hopefully a platform that can, have the public type in questions about regulations and stuff. I think that'll be really useful, not just for Concom, but for everybody.
Oh, we could use it to have Nearmap automatically find
Violations.
without us.
Yeah.
If I get a report that's like 300 properties long, I might disappear in the wetlands, you guys. Yeah, no, AI has been, I think, I don't know if you guys get Nearmap emails, but I saw something about AI, about how some of the imagery has been, or the data has been enhanced with AI. And I don't know what that means. I haven't looked at it yet, but I think there's
that just came past yesterday or day before, something like that.
Yeah, it was an email from, let me open my emails again. It was an email from like a couple days ago, but it might be an upgraded package that the town doesn't have.
Right.
So
That was my impression, is that, yes, we can add more layers with AI capability to do this, that, and the other thing. But it seemed that, yes, we would have to increase the size of our subscription.
yep. And I don't know if the town's going to do that, but it's nice to know that it's there and it's possible. Yeah, I think it was adding a lot more.
I was kind of joking, but also kind of not, because I don't think we're far off from having that capability.
Oh, yeah.
Probably not. Yeah, like if you ask AI to monitor the tree coverage across Cohasset and notify you of
You can
changes.
put in like wetlands and calculate 50-foot buffers and
Yep.
roughly conservatively.
Well, Tom's done that with actually, Tom, that might be something we can maybe you can share and we can all upload on our own end. But I think you created a rough layer profile.
Yeah, I went through all the, I used the most recent digital elevation model for town and identified all the areas that had closed contours, essentially, which means there's a wetland there. And so as I was able to map a lot of them, certainly the big ones are easy, but every time we have a meeting, something new pops up, and when I take a look at it, I can try to see if I can recognize anything that on the imagery that I can recognize as a wetland, and more often than not, I can't. So it's interesting that our wetland scientists are finding wetlands that really just don't have any obvious expression in the imagery we're looking at. So it's helpful.
The bedrock has a lot to do with that, doesn't it? Because the water kind of perks up in different places.
Oh yeah, and we have, I mean, we have a very complex groundwater situation where we're in some parts of town anyway, where we're sitting on bedrock here. It's all directed down fractures. And if you don't know the orientation of those fractures or how wide they are, I mean, so you can have springs pop up in all kinds of places that are sort of hard to predict. So you really have to do this by literally get out in the field and map all these things. That's not going to happen.
Actually, I tried to delve into this and then quickly realized that it could be a potential liability for the town, but I really wanted to go out with a GPS unit because we have one, and I wanted to go out and tag all of the wetland flags and be able to upload that into our maps, but I'd obviously have to get permission, and it's, I mean, I would love to do it. If I had an intern, I would be sending that human out to get all of our delineations recorded.
Here's something that we might consider, and that is when they put these in, they survey them in ultimately.
Yep, they're not GPSed, yeah.
We should require that they give us a table of the locations with their state plane coordinates.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't know if
we shouldn't go out there. We shouldn't go out there and collect it ourselves, but we can certainly require that the surveyors submit a table for each one of these that has the real world coordinates. We should always have at least 2 points of real world coordinates on every one of these maps, because if we want to georeference the whole plan, it can be done. I do it all the time, not so frequently anymore, but I did quite a bit of it. And it would be much easier if we had 2 or 3 known points, because then it's a trivial exercise. Right now, what you have to do is play around with the orientation of the map, rotating it one way or the other, getting the scale right, and then finding something on their plan that also shows up on the image and aligning it like a rooftop or something like that. So it would be really valuable to us, I think, to require that there be 3 known points on every plan with real world coordinates, and that would be Massachusetts state plane coordinates. It's a trivial thing for them. Almost all of them are using RTK, which is real-time kinetic corrections for their surveying. And so these things are plus or minus 10 centimeters. And that's what they're dealing with. So they already have the information, they just don't pass it on to us.
Right.
So we could have a reg that says all plans submitted have to have at least 3 RTK reference points, and then we can overlay them on Nearmap perfectly. The trivial process.
Yeah, I think because, as you guys know, I mean, even though they have professional land surveyors, they have the equipment. I mean, I have noticed, I mean, I'm obviously not qualified to question it, but I have definitely noticed errors in the existing condition survey plans.
Yep.
And quite frankly, I found at least a few of them every single project. So I just got tired of trying to call them out. So I'm really focusing mostly on like trees, for example, but like with other things where I'd be like, well, this grading doesn't look right. Why is this going up when the terrain here is going down? And like, why is the pool kind of over here when it should be right here? So it's like, site plans are never going to be perfect. And I think we've all kind of, you know, I think that's mostly like an industry practice, but I mean, they do go out with tools to make sure that it can be really accurate. And so I think asking for a few coordinate points to just verify that. And then, you know, especially with wetland lines, like the 50-foot buffer and 100-foot buffer layers that they put in based on the scales that they draw. And I don't know how accurate those 50-foot buffers actually are. I mean, on the diagram, they look great, but then I go out in the field, I'm like, this is feet, you know, I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
They're only as good as the original wetlands delineation, because once they
right.
put that delineation into AutoCAD, they can automatically generate the 50 and 100-foot buffers.
Mhm.
So if the wetland is not delineated properly, then the buffers, of course, are not in the right place.
Yeah, and I've noticed a little bit of inconsistencies with flags on plans before. Like sometimes they don't show all of the flags, and sometimes they don't show the full extent of the flags. So if there's 37 wetland flags, for example, sometimes they only show 34. And depending on what project you're looking at and where the work is, that could mean the difference between, you know, an inaccurate 1,500-foot buffer and an accurate one. So, I mean, nobody's perfect, but I've definitely noticed those few inconsistencies on plans with just having surveyors go out and locate the flags. Sometimes they can't find them all because the flags have already, you know, fallen off. So if they were GPSing them, I mean, that wouldn't be as much of an issue because the flags are always going to fall off.
Yeah,
even within a few weeks.
That's right. That's it. Then we have a permanent record of exactly where those flags are. They are ephemeral markers for sure in the field. So it's not, they have the technology to do it, and they're probably already using the technology to transfer what they place in the field to what they actually have to put on their plans. How else would you do it? Right? The wetland scientist goes out, here's the edge. How do you translate where that flag is on the ground to their plan? Well, obviously they have to survey them in. So they already have this information. We're just not getting it.
Yep.
And we should.
We could add that.
Bylaw amendment to require it.
Might just be a regulation.
Just add it to our regs.
We could, if we change the bylaw, we might just write a specification for the accuracy and precision of the location of things, but then we can specify how that's done, how it's delivered to us by the regulations. I don't think we'd get a lot of pushback from a bylaw like that. It's too arcane for anybody to argue against it, except for the engineers themselves. And they don't have a say because they're not citizens of Cohasset. You know, that's all voted on at town meeting.
Yeah, if it's in our regs, we could just revise it through one of our meetings. But if we add it to the bylaw, that's definitely a town meeting process. But
right.
Yeah, definitely the regs we can revise whenever we want. We just have to advertise it in the newspaper and vote on it publicly.
It'd make our life a lot easier, honestly.
Yeah.
We'd suddenly have plans that we could superimpose right on Nearmap.
That'd be nice.
That'd be pretty nice, because then we really have the ability to evaluate
DOCs
accurately what's being shown to us in the plans. The plans are they're abstract, they're out of context. It's much better to be able to look at that air photo imagery and see the plan superimposed on it, so you really know what you're looking at.
Yeah, for as-built versus COC analyzation, like I'm eyeballing it, obviously, and yeah, I think it's definitely a good way to look at final compliance and see, for example, obviously what trees were taken out, if the house was put in the same spot that it should have been. Yeah, definitely a consideration for sure. So, yep. But Do we want to end it before 8:30? I think that's a record for us.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Anybody make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, anyone?
Second.
We can just do a vote, everybody. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes unanimously. I didn't forget that
Okay.
time, Tom.
What's that?
I said I didn't forget to take the vote on the motion to adjourn that time.
Nice work.
Have a nice night.
Thank
a nice
you.
night,
Have a good
everybody.
one.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Charlie.
Try to keep
Take care,
these
guys.
agendas short.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.